Donald Trump said in the last 30 minutes they don't have time to cover what the Clintons have been up to for the last 30 years. You notice that? It's true. So let me help him out a little bit. I mean, just in the past week, we all know the cascade of questionable conduct coming out of it's hard to keep up with. There's another story today about ethical lapses by senior officials at Secretary Clinton's State Department. But just in the last week, it's extraordinary. While the media was focusing on semantics by my running mate, we learned that through new emails that had just been released that there seems to be a direct connection between major foreign contributors to the Clinton Foundation and favors that were given by the State Department officials. And a few days after that, while the media was focusing again on word choices by my running mate, we learned that the FBI discussed opening up a public corruption case against the Clinton Foundation, but the Obama Justice Department shut it down. It really is incredible. Now, I got to tell you, the American people are sick and tired of pay-to-play politics in Washington, D.C., and when Donald Trump and I arrive in the White House, we're going to bring it to a crashing end on day one. But it isn't just people like me that are questioning the trustworthiness of the Democrat nominee or have a hard time defending her integrity. I don't know if you all saw what Governor Hassan said the other day. If you didn't, why don't we just go ahead and take a look?
Think that she's honest and trustworthy?
I support Hillary Clinton for the presidency because her experience and her record demonstrate that she's qualified to hold the job.
Do you think she's honest?
She has a critical plan, among others, for making college more affordable.
But do you think that she's trustworthy?
I think that she has demonstrated a commitment always to something beyond herself, bigger than herself.
Now, about a day later, I guess your governor went out and said that she thought she was. But Governor Hassan, let me help you out. The answer is no. And that's why we need Kelly Ayotte back in the United States Senate. As much as it's hard to keep up with the cascading of controversies coming out of the Clinton campaign and the Clinton years, I'll tell you what the real scandal is. The real scandal is after 7.5 years of the leadership and the ideas of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, we're in the midst of the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. The morning after Hillary Clinton finished that address to the nation, official Washington confirmed that our economy in the last quarter had grown by 1.2%. I got to tell you, working families in Indiana and in New Hampshire and all over this country haven't seen a real increase in real income, net of inflation, for 10 and 15 years, and we know it. And probably most heartbreaking of all is that today there are nearly 7 million more Americans living in poverty than the day that Barack Obama became president of the United States. And what does Hillary Clinton have to offer? Well, $1 trillion in tax increases. Okay. In that one speech she just gave, she actually articulated about $1 trillion in new spending. Expanded Obamacare, more of the war on coal. And when she was asked just this week, she was asked how she's going to pay for all this new big government spending, she said, and I quote, "I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going where the money is. We're going after the super wealthy. We're going after corporations. We're going after Wall Street." Close quote. Well, she knows where all that is. If you're keeping score, from 2013 to 2014, she collected $21 million in speaking fees from those big corporations. And Wall Street, she actually voted for the Wall Street bailout that I helped lead the fight against on Capitol Hill. It's the whole problem with Hillary Clinton's plans is what Margaret Thatcher said many years ago. She said the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. So she might be going where the money is, but there's going to be a whole lot less of it if she has what her plans put into effect. The heartbreak is they tell us this economy is the best that we can do. You hear those sunny speeches about things in America are really good, already great, right? Right? Well, there's a lot of Americans, a lot of hardworking Hoosiers, a lot of hardworking people in New Hampshire who know we can do better. The truth is, we know this is nowhere near the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to cut taxes, repeal Obamacare, roll back red tape, end the war on coal, and we're going to get this economy working for every American and every family in every state. We're going to do it. Donald Trump has a plan. It's about a week ago Monday. I hope you heard about it. I was with him. I introduced him at the Detroit Economic Club. It's a really good speech. He's a hard man to precede. Do you like that one? It's actually really true. It's remarkable, but he laid out a vision to reignite the American economy with tax reform, regulatory reform, trade reform, and energy reform. When Donald Trump comes to the White House, he and I are going to roll our sleeves up. We're going to work with these great conservatives that you send to the House and Senate from New Hampshire. And we're going to cut taxes across the board for every American, lower marginal rates, end death taxes. And we're going to lower the corporate rate to 15% so businesses in New Hampshire can compete with businesses all over the world and create jobs in this country. Donald Trump has a plan to pass a moratorium on any new regulations on day one of our administration. It's extraordinary. It's just what we did in the Hoosier State. And we're going to roll back those executive orders that are imposing red tape and regulations on American businesses and killing jobs. He's got a plan for energy reform that once and for all will end the war on coal and allow us to develop all the God-given resources of this nation. And I got to tell you, as we prepare to elect a new negotiator in chief, am I right? I mean, how about that? When NAFTA was passed, it actually had a provision that said it was going to be re-examined every few years just to make sure it was working for working Americans. And we've never done it in 20 years. But I promise you, Donald Trump and I know that trade means jobs. We believe in free trade. We really and truly do. But trade under Donald Trump is going to put American jobs and American workers first, and we're going to negotiate tougher deals that'll support a growing American economy. And I got to tell you, Hillary Clinton had something to say about that speech and about Donald Trump's plans. She said that his expectations that you could do essentially frankly, what Ronald Reagan did, right, in the 1980s. I mean, lower taxes, roll back red tape, let the American people keep more of what they earn, get Washington, D.C. out of the way and watch it. She said those expectations were, quote, wildly unrealistic. Okay? Well, I think the only things that wildly unrealistic is electing the same people with the same bad ideas and expecting a different result. And let me say, the record of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton at home is bad. It's even worse once you look overseas. I mean, it's remarkable when you think of it. 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's leadership on the world stage has weakened America's place in the world. You could take a picture of a map of the wider Middle East in 2009 and take a look at a map today, and you almost can't recognize it. I came in and out of that region during my years on Capitol Hill. I was on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I went to visit our soldiers. I saw the sacrifices that the American soldier made in Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan and Operation Iraqi Freedom in Iraq. And to see the way this administration, and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, precipitously withdrew all of our forces from Iraq at a time that that country was essentially stable because of the hard-fought sacrifices of our soldiers, and create the very vacuum in which the ISIS was able to be conjured up to compromise those areas. It's appalling, and it's a disgrace. And it was Hillary Clinton who actually instigated the president's disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran, $150 billion for promises about a nuclear weapons program. And most shockingly of all, and we saw it again in the Wall Street Journal this morning, a pallet of $400 million in ransom delivered on the tarmac in payment the very day that Iran released 4 American hostages in violation of generations of American policy against paying ransom. You know, when Donald Trump is president of the United States, we won't be paying ransom to terrorist sponsoring states or terrorist organizations. They'll be paying the price if they threaten the American people, detain American citizens, or do harm to our people or our allies. I promise you that. You know, and probably most surprising or shocking of all to me is it was Hillary Clinton and her State Department who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi, where 4 Americans fell. And she literally said before a Senate committee, "What difference at this point does it make?" Men and women in New Hampshire, as the proud father of a United States Marine, let me tell you something. Anybody that said that, anybody that did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Okay? You know, we can't have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. And I promise you, when that self-described kid from Queens goes into the Oval Office, we're going to rebuild the American military. We're going to stand by our soldiers. We're going to restore the arsenal of democracy. We will command respect on the world stage. And Donald Trump will lead with American strength to a safer world for our citizens and our allies. I promise you that. You know, one last thing before I slide to your question about the stakes of this stakes in this election. You know, it's we're going to choose a president for a 4-year term, but the next president is actually going to set the course and direction of the Supreme Court for the next 40 years. I mean, men and women in New Hampshire, a lot of you already know this. I mean, the next president could appoint up to 3 justices to the Supreme Court of the United States. It's a court that was already evenly divided on many critical issues facing our country and our basic liberties. And with the untimely passing of the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia, now, thank you, you can applaud Justice Scalia. He was an extraordinary American. Thank you. You know, he left this earth at a time that was grievous to us. Karen and I went and we paid our respects at the Supreme Court building at the passing of this great man. But in some ways, as people lament his passing, and we do, there's something in this that seems to me to be altogether fitting. That now literally the balance of the Supreme Court is on the ballot this year. Because the philosophy, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton's philosophy about the Supreme Court of the United States, about limited government, about the Constitution, could not be more different. It just simply couldn't. I mean, elect Hillary Clinton president and get ready for more, unelected judges making unaccountable decisions using unconstitutional power. Get ready for more jurists like the liberals on the Supreme Court today who think it's their job to rewrite our laws instead of interpret them and uphold them and enforce them. but elect Donald Trump, President of the United States. And I promise you, Justice Antonin Scalia's devotion to the Constitution and his example will define Donald Trump's appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States. Strict constructionists will uphold our liberties and defend the Constitution as written. So let me say, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, let's decide here and now in the granite state that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States of America will be President Donald Trump. You know, as I close here, I'm going to give you the stakes one more time, and then we've got some people with microphones. We're going to slide around and take your questions. But let me just reflect on it. I've got some of my family with me today. My wife, Karen, was not properly introduced, the First Lady of Indiana, traveling with me just about every single day all across this country. Would you just say hello to my wife? Our daughter Charlotte is here, a recent college graduate, actually off the payroll. She got a job. I'm actually really excited about it. And the man who looks alarmingly like me sitting over there is one of my three brothers, who himself is a Marine, and his wife Denise, the original Trumpster in the Pence family, are both with us today. We're all about family. I mean, to know the Pences is just to know a family. We're all about family. It's the same thing true of the Trumps. I mean, the truth is, when Donald Trump was about the business of considering a long list of extraordinarily qualified men and women for this opportunity, and me, it was so important to him that we knew his family, and it was important to us that he knew our family. It's all about family, you know. And for me, I think of my family on these days. I think of my brother and my grandfather. Our grandpa grew up in Ireland in a little town called Tubacurry. And Tubacurry's apparently represented here. Might be a first. Actually, when I was 18 years old, I traveled to Ireland. I visited the little two-room house that he and his 9 brothers and sisters grew up in. My grandfather came to America because the legend in our family is that my great-grandmother told him, you have to go there because there's a future there for you. And I'm part of that future, but I don't think that's what she meant. I think she meant there's a boundless future. There's freedom. There's an America where anybody can be anybody. My grandfather believed it. He crossed what he would call the pond. He took a train to Chicago, Illinois. He drove a bus for 40 years. He's the proudest man I ever knew. I was actually named after him. He raised a family. My mom married this fast-talking salesman who took her down to a cornfield in southern Indiana. They ran a gas station business for a lot of years. They built everything that matters in my world. They built a family, a business, a good name, everything you cherish. And we did it all on a foundation of faith in our family. And faith in God and faith in America. I mean, in many ways, I feel sometimes like I was raised on the front row of the American dream. I watched it. I heard that Irishman talk to me about what America meant to him, and I could never even imagine what he thinks looking down from heaven. Yet the opportunities that our little family's been given. It's incredible. But I'll tell you what, Donald Trump and I have a great deal in common on this point. His grandfather immigrated this country, so did mine. His father was a self-made man, so was mine. I mean, other than a whole bunch of zeros, we've got the same story. Thanks for getting that joke. But we actually But really and truly, I mean, really and truly, it's one of the reasons why he and I have made the connection that we've made just so quickly. I've only known him for a couple of months, spent time with him, but there's a bond there because I think we were both raised to believe in family and to believe that to whom much is given, much will be required. He built on what he'd been given and built a globally recognized business. And for my part, I followed a career into public service and watched my siblings build great careers in business and great families. And you know, it's those kind of things that we always used to focus most on in this country. The things that unite us, that bring us together. And I really think as you leave here today, I hope really and truly, maybe you've heard something that reminds you of the stakes in this election and the way you've got to talk to your neighbors and friends here in New Hampshire to bring this thing home in November. But I hope you also talk just as much about the fact that Donald Trump and I are about believing that there will always be more that unites us in America than will ever divide us. Okay? And it's a belief in those ideals. It's the belief in the ideals of freedom, of personal responsibility, of equality of opportunity for everyone in this nation, the ability for everyone to work hard, to study hard, to reach for the American dream. And it's also the belief that we, starting on these wilderness shores so many, many years ago, that we are today what we have always been, and I pray will ever be, that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. So let me lay it out to you one more time, and then I'm going to run to your questions, okay? And I really am Karen and I are very humbled you all would take time to be out here, and very grateful for your support. But we have a choice to make, men and women in New Hampshire. And I know you all made a great choice in your primary. Now we just need to do that one more time this November in New Hampshire. So here it is. Here's what you need to tell your neighbors and friends, okay? On the doorstep, at work, place of worship, outside the CVS, for heaven's sakes, wherever you need to do it. Just say this: if you want a president who will protect this nation, rebuild our military, stand with those in uniform and confront and defeat radical Islamic terrorism as a threat to us and to our allies. If you want a president who will restore law and order to the cities and towns and states in this nation and stand with our law enforcement, providing them the resources they need to protect our families and go home safe to theirs. If you want a president who will cut taxes, grow our economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. And if you want a president who will restore the borders of this nation, build a wall, and enforce the laws of this nation for the citizens of this nation, and if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, here in the Granite State, we have but one choice. And I'm here to tell you, that man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is ready. Let's make sure this state is ready, and let's go elect Donald Trump to be the 45th President of the United States of America. And we will make America great again. Well, thank you. Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. No, you know, I really do. I love doing town hall meetings. I think we were in Nevada yesterday, dear. We were in New Mexico the day before. And I really think it's important, though, that we, sometimes that you just should pay more careful attention to what you already know. As men and women, we got a little more than 80 days ahead of us to go tell a story. And so I I hope in some way what you've heard here today, I hope not only you hear my passion, but I hope you hear the principles and the choice that we have in this election, and I hope you go tell somebody. So with that, slip your hand in the air, share with me your first name, and we'll see what's on your mind. How about right over here in the striped shirt?
Thank you, Mike, for coming to Manchester, New Hampshire.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is John.
Hi, John.
Common Core is an example of top-down government education that's failing our children today. What will you and Donald do when elected president and vice president to restore bottom-up education, starting with the parents, the teachers, and the elected school board members?
Thanks so much. Great question. Well, let me tell you, you're talking to somebody who my first year in Congress, I served in Congress for 12 years before I became governor of Indiana. Sometimes I tell people if I only had 12 years left to live, I'd want to live it as a member of Congress because that was the longest 12 years of my life, right? Is that okay? You can have that one, Frank. He's a good guy, a good friend of mine. But seriously, I arrived in Congress, I was there for 6 months. And the number one priority of the new Republican president, who I love, was a bill called No Child Left Behind. And I, along with, 3 or 4 dozen Republican members of Congress, actually voted against and vigorously opposed No Child Left Behind because I and Donald Trump believe education is a state and local function that should be controlled by parents, by teachers, by administrators, and by local communities, and not Washington, D.C. Okay? So I'm not new to this fight. And I really do want to commend Congress. There was the ESSA, the Education Reform Act, literally repealed No Child Left Behind, and was described correctly as the largest evolution of power from Washington, D.C. back to the states. So give these members of Congress who are representing, like Frank Ginta and others here, give them a round of applause for sending education back where it belongs. They did a great job. With regard to Common Core, I'll tell you I'm proud of the fact Indiana was among the first states to legally withdraw from Common Core, legally withdraw from PARC, and Donald Trump and I are going to drive that principle on education and so many other issues. I mean, I happen to believe, as Donald does, that the cure for what ails this country will come as much from our nation's state capitals as it ever will from our nation's capital. And so devolving authority, as the Constitution contemplated, back to the states is going to be a priority of this administration, and especially in education. Last thing I will tell you about Donald Trump on education is I'm proud that the state of Indiana is home to one of the largest educational voucher programs in the United States of America. We open doors of educational opportunities because we really believe in educational choice. And I promise you, it was one of the first things Donald Trump ever mentioned to me. The man is passionate about the principle that parents ought to be able to choose where their children go to school, regardless of their income, regardless of their area code. And Donald Trump's going to fight for school choice. And I can't wait. I can't wait to be in that battle. Thank you for a great, great, important question. Hi. Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir? Thank you for calling on me. My name's Tony Woody. I'm a retired Chief Petty Officer. My son just retired from the Marine Corps 2 weeks ago. My oldest grandson goes in boot camp in Marine Corps in November.
God bless him.
Sir, I want you to see this piece of paper here. This is probably the most important document you will ever read in your entire life. Myself and several other veterans litigated a case without any legal assistance all the way till we knocked on the door of the Supreme Court. You know how hard that must be, okay? We accused the VA of heinous criminal activity. The courts ignored our case, pretending like we were talking about VA benefits and claimed they don't have jurisdiction over our case. We sued for wrongful death, murder, things like that. This is no joke. So this case, now that it has been adjudicated in this manner, means that I no longer am a free man and do not have access to the federal courts anymore for any of these criminal acts that we put in our lawsuit. Do you understand the magnitude of what I just said?
You're going to need to hand me that piece of paper.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Yeah, we'll grab that. And how about a round of applause for Tony and for his family for their service to the country? Thank you. Thanks for your service. Thank you, Tony. Let me,
I want to say one quick thing.
yeah, go ahead.
We are warriors. Warriors never give up.
That's right.
We adapt and overcome no matter what the odds. We will never stop defending the Constitution of the United States.
There you go.
The VA has been stomping on our due process and civil rights and getting away with it for way too long.
Well, let me make you a promise, Tony. And number one, would any of the men and women who served in the uniform of the United States stand if you are able, or raise your hand otherwise? Would you mind standing and just let us say thank you to Tony and to all of you who have served our nation in uniform? Thank you. Let me talk to you about the VA. Okay, Donald Trump. I really want to make it clear this is a priority and it's a passion. Donald Trump. The first speech I traveled out of town after the convention with was to the VFW. I'd recommend all of you that care about our veterans, all of you that care about this issue, take a look at the speech that he gave at the VFW. I think it was 10, 12-point plan for this man who is at his very core. I'll tell you what, other than being dedicated to his family, Donald Trump is a CEO, and he is going to fix the Veterans Health Administration for our veterans and turn it into world-class health care. I promise you, Tony. I promise you that. Yeah. Well, I got you. I'm telling you, I want you to look at this plan. It's a 12-point plan, and Donald Trump has made it clear that we are going to fix that public system, okay? We're not going to abandon the public system because there is this business. Those of you that were standing or had your hands raised, we thank you, we honor you, but I don't even like calling health, health benefits. These are not benefits. You earned this coverage wearing the uniform of the United States, and am I right? This is just what you earn. You put on a uniform, you stepped in the gap, all right? You put your life on the line for this country, and we're going to keep those promises, and that's the way Donald Trump looks at it. But the other piece is we're going to fix, I want you to look at that plan, I promise you, Tony. Let me run to somebody else. But we're going to fix the Veterans Health Administration, but also if you can't get the medical services, world-class medical attention right when you need it, Donald Trump is going to make it possible for you to go across the street and get health care in real time. We're going to take care of our veterans. I promise you that. He's passionate about it. All right, where am I? How about, let's see. Where's my other microphone? Yeah, go back right. I want to try and keep working around the clock. Right there, son. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Linda.
Hi, Linda.
My question is, in New Hampshire, we have voting polls. We have voting where we have electronic ballot along with a paper ballot. Most states don't have that. And there's a huge issue right now with voting machines. A lot of states went to electronic voting machines. They're out of date, no security patches. They've been shown that they can be hacked into. Even if we get out and we vote, and the voting machines are rigged, as we know, if they can be hacked, what's to prevent that? What can you guys do? What's being done to ensure that that's not going to happen? That it's going to be a fair election?
That's a great question. Terrific question. Well, the administration of our elections is a state function, and I will tell you, in the state of Indiana, we broke ground a number of years ago, and we went all the way to the Supreme Court on this, on voter ID laws. And I will tell you, I mean, you need a picture ID to cash a check at the grocery store. You ought to. There's nothing wrong with asking people to have a picture ID to exercise the blood-bought franchise of voting for this country and practicing a democracy. That's one way. But what I would answer your question is really and truly, if you know, I've only held a couple of offices, and I'm applying for another one. Right? But I'm governor of the great state of Indiana, and I've been a congressman, U.S. representative from Indiana. And I was a precinct committeeman. That's it. I got elected to that. Okay? And honestly, it's wonderful you're here. It's wonderful that you're active and you're passionate about Donald Trump's vision to make America great again. But I really encourage you today, and there's lots of great people involved in the Republican Party who are here go get involved in your precinct because, we call them inspectors in Indiana. There are poll watchers in Indiana. The truth of the matter is that the integrity of the one person, one vote is at the very core of democracy, and that happens one precinct at a time. And the truth of the matter is, you are the greatest vanguard for integrity in voting in New Hampshire. And so if you haven't yet been involved, we need you to be involved before Election Day, knocking on doors, making telephone calls, everything that needs to be done. But I really encourage you. Advance those policies like voter ID that we have in Indiana, which contribute to the integrity of the ballot. But also get involved. Get involved in your own neighborhood, in your own precinct. That's how we do democracy in America, is one neighborhood and one precinct at a time. So roll your sleeves up and go after it.
Governor, we have time for one more question.
Okay. How about this gentleman right here? Nice to have you here, sir.
Hi, I'm Charlie Burns from Milford, New Hampshire.
Charlie, thank you.
Just briefly before I ask my question, the fellow that asked a question on education, would that also include ending the U.S. Department of Education as part of your plan? That was something Ronald Reagan said he was going to do, and
He did say
unfortunately
that, right.
didn't get it done.
Well, Charlie, and I think I see evidence of a service record there. Thanks for your service to the country, Charlie. We appreciate you very much. God bless you. Well, the Federal Department of Education was created by Jimmy Carter. A lot of people think Ben Franklin came up with it. Right? And we've had a long-standing commitment to free public education in this country, and so we shall ever. It's actually in the Constitution of the state of Indiana. But people ought to know, as we think about this issue going forward, people ought to know this involvement in education by the federal government is a fairly new iteration in America. And I got to tell you what, I've been married to this school teacher over here for 31 years. And she's a great school teacher, by the way. All right, second grade, art teacher. And when I get started talking about education, what makes education great, Karen starts giving me that look. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, you do, apparently. It's that look of, hey, look, the person behind the desk, the person who's standing in front of the chalkboard or now the whiteboard, knows a whole lot more about what it takes to help those kids see more in themselves and achieve great things than all the bureaucrats in the world. And what I can just promise you is that Donald Trump, to his very bone marrow, believes in the principle that when it comes to education and when it comes to public safety, government that governs least governs best, that we are going to make sure that the control of our schools, the direction of our schools is driven by parents, by teachers, by administrators at the state and local level. I promise you that. Okay? And with that, you all are very kind to be here. Thank you to the officials who are here as well, who are good friends. We're going to slip out, and it's actually our daughter's birthday tonight. No, not her. Not her. Not her. Sorry, I threw that at you. No, it's not her. It's not her. It's not her. That was all on me. I totally confused the issue. Our daughter Audrey goes to Northeastern University. It's a great kid. Is that good? Does that do me something? She's great. So my wife actually, she's meeting us for dinner tonight. It's her 22nd birthday. She's our youngest. She's an amazing person. So we're going to slip out and catch up with her. But I will pass along your wonderful birthday wishes from the back row here. But I want to say just very quickly to all of you, number one, from the bottom of my heart, I know I'm the B-list Republican celebrity, so thank you for coming out. Thanks for being here. We're very humbled by your presence. We really are. And I'm here for the same reason you're here. I'm here for Donald Trump. I'm here because I know Donald Trump is a good man and he's going to make a great president of the United States. But my challenge to each and every one of you is go tell somebody, okay? Just go tell somebody. I mean, if you've heard something here today in our conversation, our dialogue about the vision that we have, Donald Trump and I have for this government, for turning this country around, if you're a little bit more motivated, you're a little bit more excited, go tell somebody. Get involved. We got a number of members of the New Hampshire Trump team who are here. Grab a sign. That's just what I want to encourage you to do, because here's my promise. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think I might have said earlier that, these days I have to turn on the television with a stick, It's pretty rough out there. It's like the media. It's like 2-on-1 most days, with the media doing most of Hillary's work for her. And But the great thing is, Donald Trump is still winning hearts and minds every day, all across this country. And the reason is because people are talking to people. Remember, the most powerful media in America is you. All right? So, I mean, word of mouth has always been and will always be the most powerful form of communication. Because when you sit down with a neighbor and friend who's known you for years, you sit down over a cup of coffee, you stop somebody at your place of worship, or you run into somebody at the grocery store, you stop somebody at work, and you just say, hey, you know, I just was with Mike the other day, and he told us to tell somebody, so I'm just going to tell you, I'm voting for Donald Trump, and here's why. I guarantee you that all the front pages in the world, all the television commercials in the world, all the talking head shows in the world matter about that much compared to the mountain of credibility that you have telling somebody who knows you and trusts you what the stakes are in this election. And so I want to encourage you to do it. It's change versus the status quo. Say to people, if you believe our country's been on the right path, in the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression, 7 million more Americans struggling in work, if you believe our nation's on the right path, with a weakened American place in the world and the rise of threats to our people and to our allies, inspiring violence here at home and bringing violence across the region, across Europe, if you think that's all working well, then essentially you've got Hillary Clinton offering to keep it going. But if you believe in change, if you believe that America can be strong again, if you believe that America can stand tall on the world stage again, if you believe that our best days and our strongest days for every working American are ahead again, tell your neighbors the time has come to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States. So let's go get it done, New Hampshire. Thank you very much, and God bless you. It's an honor to be with all of you today.